Hello everyone, Jack here for KERB TV. As you can see, we have some brand new high quality idents for the page. Expect to see lots more of those. We have another KERB Bootcamp today, as you saw. So we're going to be talking to an aspiring new street food trader about starting their own street food business and what support they might need to get out on the streets when we get back to normality at some point this year. In terms of normality, obviously all of our markets and traders aren't trading at the moment, but if you want to support any of them, you can go to kerbfood.store, which is just here. You can buy lunches for when the markets come back open. You can buy tickets for our relaunch party at $7 and much, much more. So really excited for today. I'll also be joined by my co-host, the lovely Ollie Hunter from KERB, who's just here. There.
Good evening.
That way.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of enjoying the fact that it's raining because I don't have a garden. So I think it's a great leveler of all these people who've been luxuriating in their garden.
Yeah, exactly. You can feel like us. I think this is like maybe only the second or third time in the last 5 or 6 weeks where it's not been a beautiful sunny day. So yeah, I'm quite glad not to be on a market today, to be honest. So we can do this. So over the last couple of weeks, we did a boot camp with Carly, who's starting her own Hunan street food business, and we've chosen another person who applied on our consultation challenge called Joe from Froome near Bristol in the southwest. Hi, Joe.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How's it going?
Well, thanks. Yeah, caught a bit of rain too this morning walking the dogs, but nice to be home and dry now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So today you're another winner of our consultation challenge, and we loved your application. And one of the things that really stood out to us was a photo that you included, and not everyone includes a photo, but it really gave us like an idea and a sense of like what you wanted to do. So I'm just gonna. This is the photo. So can you, as you can see, it's like, or maybe you describe the photo, what it is, and how this is the inspiration for what Schmo's Deli could be.
Sure. So that photo is of my grandparents and my great uncle Joey, who is on the right-hand side of that photo. So I didn't get Uncle Joey's height, but I did get his name, and the nickname Joe Schmo has stuck over the years. And my grandparents are from the East Coast of the States, and my mother was born over there in New Jersey.
Okay.
But as my grandfather was in the US Navy, they moved around and eventually settled in the UK, which is where my immediate family has stayed ever since. But one aunt did stay, went back out to New Jersey, and each summer I was shipped over there in the summer holidays, having parents that worked, of course, and grew an affinity for the food of the East Coast. And as I got a bit older, I'd venture into the city and find places to eat there. And that's where I kind of learned a bit about food from those delis and what I would like to emulate, I think, with the street food business.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the inspiration of why you've wanted to do a street food idea based around kind of that East Coast deli food, comfort food. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a huge variety of delis and people of different backgrounds there, and my family are a mixture of Irish and German American immigrants. Or that side of the family is at least. Yeah. And there's such a variety of different styles, but also there are, I think, little niche aspects of those recipes and very specific things that I've found in those delis and I've really enjoyed that I've yet to see over here. And that's what I'd like to explore, I think.
Awesome. And so what is your background? Like, do you have a background in food, or have you been doing other things?
No, I've worked in IT mostly over the years. I started out working in a fruit-themed retail shop, if that rings any bells, not naming any names. And then I left to do a master's in computer science, and then did web development for a number of years. But I found that working indoors and being chained to a desk all day wasn't really good for my overall health. So in the past few years, I've been lucky enough to have time to take stock and explore different things. And I've always become more of a foodie over the years, and really enjoy cooking at home and hosting dinner parties. And I'm hoping that running a street food business is an extension of that feeling when you host a good dinner party and you're proud to present food to people.
Yeah, there's only so much pastrami one person can eat, right?
That's right, but I'm pushing that limit, I can tell you that. Yeah.
So you obviously, we mentioned earlier that you live in Frome, which is kind of in the southwest, near Bristol, near Bath. It's not something I know much about, but what's the street food scene like there?
Well, Frome specifically has a monthly event called the Frome Independent, which is huge and brings people from across the southwest to Frome. And it runs basically across the entire town centre. And a big majority of that are the street food vendors. And that's, I think that's, as it sounds, an independent market. It's privately run. And outside of Frome, Bristol has a number of independent markets, probably most famously St. Nick's Market. But also there's a real concentration in the centre of the harbour side and Finzel's Reach and Temple Quay. And I think it's all within 200 square meters, but they just operate on different days.
Okay.
So there's lots of opportunity. I think I've struggled with finding the decision makers of those groups.
Yeah, that can be quite difficult.
Yeah. And I have shown up with good intentions and had food to share, but ended up sharing it with other vendors because I just couldn't find the organizers.
That's still a good approach, because
I made friends.
And street food is a very small, like sometimes incestuous world where your relationships and your reputation and what other people think of you is just as important. So you were talking about food that you took with other people. Was that the pastrami that you make, and why pastrami rather than salt beef?
Well, in those cases, it was cheesecake, which is we have a family recipe for New York style baked vanilla cheesecake.
Okay.
And that in that case, it was that cold dessert, partly because it was just easier to transport and safer to present. Because of course, with meat, you have to make sure it's reheated suitably.
Yeah.
But what I focus on mostly is pastrami, which is a little different to salt beef. They start out with the same process. You take some brisket and you brine it in a mixture of salt, sugar, and pickling spices, typically for about 5 to 7 days, or a bit longer if you're adventurous. And at that point, you can smoke the brisket and you'd produce salt beef. But with pastrami, you then coat, before cooking, of course, you coat the salt beef in mustard, and then you apply a bark, which is a mixture of peppercorn and coriander seeds. And I like to use a little bit of paprika and light brown sugar too. Yeah. And then you smoke it. So the distinction is the bark that is the difference. So the texture is very similar, but pastrami has more of a bite to it. It's like a spicy salt beef almost.
Yeah, I think in the times that we live in, that is a really good thing to focus on. And like people want that kind of that hit and that kick, and like at least in terms of London, like a lot of people go to Bagel Bake, which is open 24 hours a day, and get a salt beef bagel. It's an iconic thing. So being able to like differentiate yourself with something that like other people in Bristol or in other places aren't doing, that's a really good way to focus on. Like, is there other people doing the similar kind of things in Bristol?
Yeah, well, certainly around. I know of one or two places that are serving brisket sandwiches and salt beef sandwiches specifically, but not pastrami. And often instead of sauerkraut, they use like a red cabbage slaw, because I think that to the general public is more palatable.
Yeah.
But I like to think I'd stick to my guns and insist on sauerkraut and pastrami rather than more neutral flavors.
Is that what your hero dish would be then? This kind of pastrami sauerkraut? Or you tell me what it would be.
Yeah. What I would call an authentic Reuben sandwich. Yes, certainly. And beyond that, things like there are specific brands of soda that you only really find in delis in Brooklyn. There are like sides that are thrown in, like an apple and celery salad, which has some walnuts in it, like things like that nobody really is celebrating here yet, but I have grown almost used to. I almost take it for granted when I'm that kind of food, and I'd really like to echo those specific nuances and specific foods over here. Yeah.
I think there's, especially in a place like Bristol in the southwest that has so many like food producers and independent food producers, there's so much scope there to connect with people and match with people. So have you done any trading so far? Like I think you mentioned you might have done a Christmas market. Like how was that like?
Yeah, so late last year, actually it was one of the times that I took my cheesecake to a street food event. I took it to an eat festival in I think it was Taunton, and on that occasion I found the organizers, and they were thrilled to try the food, and I was excited to present it as well, and they invited me to one of their Christmas markets, which at the time was an indoor market, so I just needed a table and a spread rather than a kitted out gazebo. So rather than accelerate and try and get my hot food prep ready, I decided I'll just do cheesecake, focus on that. It'll be a nice kind of toe in the water to try it out. I think I produced 8 cheesecakes for the event, and in the end I sold enough to break even, but sadly I wasted a lot of food that day.
Good start. It's a good start. Breaking even is probably the best you can hope for, I reckon, when you do that.
I suppose so, and that's not including, I suppose, effort and gas money. But in terms of ingredients, that's how I measured it at the time. So
I was just going to say, so kind of what I'm hearing is that the 2 main things you want help with, I guess, are finding markets, getting into markets, and one of the things I think we can really help on is like producing the pastrami in a way that is sort of like scalable, and you can do it. Say you want to do 100 portions in a day, how are you going to do that without, killing yourself or having to invest loads of money in a massive kitchen?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
that'd be really helpful.
We've got a great guest for both of those answers today. We've got Matt who runs Thunderbird Fried Chicken in London. Previously, he traded with us under BBQ Lab. So BBQ Lab was started in 2014, 2013, 2014.
We did the first couple of markets in 2013, then went full time in 2014.
Yeah, and they were probably one of the first people that worked with us that were doing this sort of like high-end meat production in their prep kitchen, and then bring it to markets and trying to sell it to the public, and probably learned a lot during doing that process. So it'd be fascinating to see how Matt can help you with this. So Matt, just based on what Joe's been saying right now, the idea of a New York deli sort of transported from New Jersey to the southwest of England, what's your kind of like rough feeling about that as an idea?
Well, I think it's a great idea. I mean, it's a style of food that I absolutely love, and it's not particularly common over here, even in London. So I think it sounds like a brilliant opportunity, and it's a style of food that everyone loves when they try it. So I think you're in a good place with that. I think as far as doing huge chunks of red meat goes, it can be very, very labor intensive and very difficult cost wise. I remember spending absolute fortunes on ingredients only to not sell enough of it. It was a very painful process. I mean, so BBQ Lab was frankly a pretty daft business model to begin with. It was sort of sous vide based American barbecue, which meant that it was a new menu, not just every week, but every single day. And I remember doing things like 6 different menus across 6 different locations over 4 different days. Many, many anecdotes like that. And I was doing everything myself as well. So, I mean, sort of, I described it as a business model a second ago. It wasn't a business, it was just pure passion and the love of cooking. And I think everyone said I would burn out at some point, and indeed, after about 2 years of doing that, I did. And after that point, it became sort of a game of efficiency, really. So when you're doing it, it basically becomes like mass production, trying to do huge quantities of food over and over. And it does sound kind of unglamorous, but that's just the way it always ends up going for these sorts of businesses. Once people start really liking your food, then you end up having to produce huge amounts of it very, very fast. And it's trying to find more efficient ways of doing things is the only way that you can maintain your sanity and actually build a scalable business. So given the example of like you're brining your meats, well, the simple one is you just make huge batches of all the brining ingredients. So you don't have to do that mundane task every single time. You've just got a huge tub full of sugar, salt, and everything else. And then how do you brine it faster? Well, you could look at injection brining, and I don't know if you're doing that already, but what if you were to inject the brine 8 times, then 16 times, then 50 times into each brisket, into a load of different briskets, back to back them, and then find out which one gives you the best result for the least amount of effort, and then cut that 5 to 7 days down to hopefully 3 or 4 days. And it's just working through those kinds of efficiencies that you end up getting the best product that you can as fast as possible. And it was something that I got caught out with quite a few times. Was, you know, I was doing briskets and I was doing 72 hours sous vide cooking. We'd be at a market and get absolutely slammed. Some of my fellow traders would just go after Booker or Macro or whatever and go and buy some more ingredients, and off they go. I'd be like, well, even if I started cooking now, I can't get more product to market for 3 days. So, and also I was a bit too precious about not freezing anything, but having a backup, even if it's only 75% as good as the fresh product, having it there is so important to you. And also knowing that if the market goes south and the Great British weather ruins it, that you can then freeze that product and save it for another day, and you're not out 300 quid on ingredients.
I would say, from my experience with working with Matt, one of the things that he never really had from the start was that hero dish that you would replicate for the next few years. So having that idea that you've got a Reuben from the start in your head means that all that work you're doing on efficiencies is solely focused on the Reuben. I imagine, Matt, you've probably got binders full of recipes where you've done experiments on brisket, turkey, chicken, pork, pretty much every different ingredient, working to make them more efficient. Yeah, but that's like an insane amount of work for one person to do when you're starting a business.
Yes, but again, that's where I'm not very good example, or at least I wasn't when I was doing BBQ Lab stuff, for what to do as a trader. Because I had a strange approach to it, but I was doing it for the love and the passion, and that was it. And I sort of complete flagrant disregard for making profit or anything else. It's just like, make awesome food and have fun. Having said that, after about that 2-year period, then the easy go-to that was always there on the menu was pulled pork, and that ended up being, originally it was like 7 hours cold smoke and then 48 hours sous vide, and then cut that down to about 8 hours in the water bath and 2 hours in the smoker, and basically the same quality of product. But that was always there on the menu, and I always had tons of it. And then the specials that kept me excited and interested, they then I allowed myself huge freedom to go off and do whatever crazy weirdness I fancied. But it was having that core product that you can make really efficient and really rely on, and crucially profitable. That's what helps keep you sane and keep you motivated.
So by the sounds of it for you, Joe, that's the Reuben as the core product, and then maybe working on other things to like bring that sort of deli atmosphere you get from New York to Frome, basically. So it could be like smoked turkey, it could be I don't know, making your own pickles, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, certainly. Pickles are something that I'm have experimented with as well as my own sauerkraut and other things. But it's uncanny, actually. Matt's methods I sound like I'm on exactly the same path, because I am experimenting with what's the comparison between brining for 4 days versus 5, and I've been using sous vide as well and measuring 36-hour methods versus 48 hours of slow cooking and seeing if I can taste a difference. And yeah, I would like to get hold of those folders if they're available, to be quite honest.
I think they're under lock and key, aren't they? They're pretty valuable. But actually, it's a good one interesting thing of your experimentation with other dishes to sort of facilitate BBQ Lab ended up you making your Chipotle wings, winning Wingfest, and then becoming.
It was at the KERB clubhouse in Hackney Wick, and it was like a particularly bleak and stormy weekend in like November or something. And I was just like, I need sales, so I thought I've got wings on, and it was just take a buffalo wing, take every element apart, make it better, put it back together, and then 2 months later we won Wingfest. And then that was the genesis birth of Thunderbird. And then it was like, fried chicken. I can just put it in a fryer. I don't need to cook it for 3 days. And here we are now.
But you use the same sort of obsessive qualities about quality and process to make that wing the best in London.
That was it, and it was good to hear that you were out sort of looking at understanding the history of your products and stuff like that as well. I mean, I really, really strongly believe in just know your craft. So understanding every different variance of the product and all the regional styles and the history of it, and just constantly researching and reading, and the number of times that I've watched some YouTube video and seen an ingredient on the shelf in the back of the kitchen, or there's some hand gesture of how they do something. Little bits of equipment that you've never seen before, and then suddenly you buy one and it changes your whole game. That kind of stuff is so valuable, but you've just got to really constantly be on it. And at the end of the competitive game, sorry?
It's becoming a guru of that product. When someone wants to come to you and go like, how do I do this? You know all the answers and you're like the expert. And then the product that you make is just a product of your like expertise.
And ultimately, business is competition, and the harder you compete, the better you are, the more successful you will be. It's a very simple formula in that sense.
So I just wanted to touch on Joe's question about approaching markets and approaching event organizers and stuff like that. You started with KERB as pretty much your first day. It was your first day, wasn't it?
That was a tough day. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're on the right path already, just approaching markets and stuff. My mantra was be everywhere always. And at the time I was living outside of London, but I'd identified KERB and Street Feasts. Those are the two. They've got the best prestige, the best resources, the best locations, best. I've got to be in there. Find a way. So I was organising meetings with my other job, specifically near to KERB market, just so I could go there. I got to know most of the traders on a first name basis. I was reading every single tweet. I was even trying to sort of forecast sales based on what people had said via Twitter of how fast they'd sold out. Turned out most of their figures were grossly inflated, but anyway. And it was just being there in their face. And I know, years ago, Ollie used to say it was like 300 or 400 applications you'd receive per year and then take on 10 or 15 traders. So how do you stand out in that crowd is really hard. And again, that's just being there all the time. And with KERB, it was, I think I came to your offices with like 14 different dishes and just went feast. And that seemed to be enough. He gave me a market off the back of it. And then it was the same with Street Feast again. At the time, doing American barbecue, Smokestack had just started up, and Hotbox as well. I was like, how the hell do I, they don't need 3 barbecue traders, they've only got 20 traders full stop. But the founder was a fella called Dom, and I ended up actually going to his house and cooking him dinner in his own kitchen. Destroyed the place as well. But he gave me a space off the back of that. So it's just, stand out from the crowd and get an effect, not like in an annoying way, but just really be proactive, want to do it, and get your food in front of people. And if it's good, then they'll give you.
I would say one of the things that we really look for in new businesses is like, well, we kind of call it intent. So like the idea that you've already got like a website, and if you're a web developer, you can knock up a website pretty quickly. If you've got like a website and a clear logo, and maybe you bought the equipment and stuff like that, us saying yes to you is a really easy decision for us to make. At the point where you're just saying, this is kind of my idea, I'd like to do this, will you give me a shot? It's harder because you don't know what the food's going to be like. You don't know what the founder's going to be like. But if you have that intent from day one, people are generally like, yeah, of course, it sounds wicked. I'd love to have that at my market. Because you can actually benefit the market by being a really good trader. So I would say if you wanted to get into the places like Finzel Reach market, get Joe Schmo's and Schmo's Deli, like a proper website, and almost like you're applying for a job. So you go like, here's my idea, here's what my store's going to look like. Will you let me do it? And like Jack said, just sending us that picture where you had like a clear sort of like brand story about your business was enough to for us to get in touch with you and reach out. So
Thank you. Well, I'm at a stage now where I need to make that last leap of faith and get the gazebo and that hot food equipment and make that up. So if I don't yet have an example of what my store looks like, should I get that first and then approach markets, or should I be approaching organizers and then when I'm given the green light, push for that equipment? And
the
first one, okay.
Get the stuff. So like if someone was like, we've got pitched, someone's dropped out tomorrow, do you want to do it?
I see.
Like, sweet, yeah, I can do it. And it's
okay.
that kind of hustle that gets your foot in the door, and then as soon as you get your first one, then you get your next one, and then it snowballs from there. Getting that first one is the hardest, in the same way getting your first job is probably the hardest job to get. You don't have experience to get the job, but you need experience to get the job.
Yeah.
So you almost have to like kind of fake that you have experience, and you go like, look, here's all the equipment I'm using. Here's my dish. Do you want to taste it? It tastes amazing. Right, you're in.
Right.
And you can do it on a shoestring, really. Like you can knock up the branding either yourself or get a friend to do it. And then you can buy a gazebo and some tables, probably for less than 500 quid. And that can be the first iteration of your stall, and then you can move on from there. When Matt started, he had invested in a massive truck. How much did that cost to start?
Actually, I knew I wanted a really cool truck, and I was a bit drunk on eBay and bought an American ambulance for 1,200 quid, which was
wow.
That was interesting waking up to that the next day, and then immediately had to spend $3,000 on it just to get a low emissions exhaust to drive in London. But yeah, as far as commitment goes, I sold everything I had apart from clothes and a TV to get the ambulance and get it up and running and all that stuff. But I was committed. It
shows that intent, doesn't it? You turn up in a van that you spent just under $5,000 on.
There's probably 12, 14 grand all in to get all the equipment and everything. But I was committed. There's no turning back.
And you've also got to remember that money that you've invested at the start is an investment. It's not just an expense. You can recoup some of that money through trading, hopefully. And worst case scenario, you sell it at the end, and you come out with a little loss. But you can get startup loans that will spread that loss over 5 years or something. So it'll be like a bit of money coming out. But it's a way to kind of scratch that itch of starting a business, essentially. And if it works, amazing. You've got a business that's paid all that money back. So Matt, just some quick fire questions. Would you get a vintage van? Yes or no now?
Well, to give you an example, there's not a quick fire answer, but the third event I ever did, the gearbox exploded on my ambulance and I couldn't afford to fix it. So it was stuck in second gear for the next 3 years. And I could do 25, but it would get smelly and the cabin would fill with smoke. So I had to do 20 miles an hour. So for 3 years, I drove around London at 20, causing anger to my fellow road users. But practically everyone who's got a vintage truck has a story similar to that one. And I can laugh about it now, but when you see your life savings go off on the back of a tow truck with potentially 2 grand's worth of food in it, that is a huge failure. However, having had a vintage truck got me into so many markets, weddings, events. So it's a two-sided thing, It gives you great opportunities, but limited sanity and bank balance, because those things get really expensive really fast. So you've got to be very determined that this is the route you want to go down. Having said that, pretty much, people who have gazebos and stuff, their transits break down all the time as well. So it's just the nature of our industry. It's pain. I think Ollie's frozen.
Yeah, it's not just me.
Okay.
I can see Jack. Jack, I think you're muted.
Hi.
There you are.
Yeah, don't worry. Ollie has temperamental internet, so that's just kind of what happens. I think he's back. Let me just add him to the stream. Oh, here we go. Oh,
I am back. Sorry about
that. Any more questions for Matt, Ollie, or was that just one quick fire question?
If you were to go back in time and speak to Matt just about to start Barbecubulance, which I believe was the first name,
yeah.
What advice would you give? What advice would you give him now?
Look, I probably wouldn't give myself anything, because all of the mistakes that I've made have kind of got me to where I am now, but I appreciate that's not a very helpful answer. The main one actually would be to focus on finances from day one. The original finance department of BBQ Lab was the passenger seat footwell of my car. Get an invoice and throw it in. And get to the end of the year and try and sort through the massive pile. It becomes very, very, very important after a while. The number of markets that I did where I probably lost money and wasn't aware of it is, I hate to think. And then ultimately, a few years down the line, when you look at getting investment, you want to grow your business. Much as investors love talking about the story and the product and all this exciting stuff, they are essentially making a financial bet. And unless you have a good profit and loss statement to show them, you're not giving them any odds on which they can bet. It is that simple. So having sound finances from early on and being able to show growth and improvement within that, higher sales and better profits is really, really valuable. And I learned that lesson way, way too late. But ultimately, you get there and you learn as you go along. And then a couple of years in, we did manage to get investment ultimately.
There you go. Great answer. Get bookkeeping software. We'll talk you through it.
Yeah.
Joe, have you got any more questions for Matt, or how have you found today?
It's been really useful, thank you. Yeah, I've been following through the other workshops, and I heard a little bit about bookkeeping and is it Xero and the receipt organizer.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot about how important the theatre is in your stall and how to generate interest and lots of little hints and tips throughout the week that have been great. And Matt's experiences cooking brisket sound, exactly like the path I'm on. So I might send Matt an email, ask about some cooking times and temperatures and things like that a bit later, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll let you guys nerd out together on temperature probes and things like that. But thank you so much, Matt, for joining us today, and hopefully see you soon.
Thanks.
Matt.
So, Joe. We'll add. Hey, Joe.
Hi.
I think we've talked about like quite a lot. Hopefully, it's answered some of the questions that you were kind of looking for support from. I think what I took from Matt was know your history and authenticity, which I think you've got. Be everywhere always, which is something I quite like. And then intent, invest, hustle is what I put, which I think is a good way of like getting to the place that you want to be. And fake it till you make it as well, basically. Is kind of name of the game. Do you have any more questions for us now from today?
No, not immediately. No, I hope. I think I need to take that last leap of faith and get the store set up so that when those opportunities come up in the near future, hopefully when this ambiguous period is over, I can just jump on those opportunities. So, awesome. Hopefully I'll keep you both updated and send you photos from my first day trading and things like that. Yeah,
we'll get you back on the show talking about that. You can access our street food starter pack, which has loads of the information that we've covered, like on the workshops. It's free to access. You can join a Slack channel as well if you haven't already. I'd really recommend. And on our starter pack, there's also discounts for like gazebos and things like that. So that might be a great place to save some money. And lastly, because I'm a history nerd, I don't know if you've ever heard of this book. 97 Orchard?
No, I haven't.
This is like one of my favorite food history books. I did a history degree, so I love this kind of stuff. And it's basically a book about 5 New York families over like 100-year period who all live in the same building and all talks about their foods and their experiences in America and why they end up cooking the things they do and how those foods become part of the American eating experience. So I definitely 100% recommend getting this book. I think
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. We'll definitely talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me. Yeah,
good luck.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
That was great. I really enjoyed that. I think all the knowledge, just so much knowledge. And I think it's testament to if you feel like you have a story to tell or something to share with the world that's like really special, then you keep pushing for it. And just the inclusion of that photo in the application was the thing that led to today. So you never know where it could lead to. So if you thanks Ollie for joining us today. What's going to be on the show tomorrow?
We've got Petra coming on to talk about the launch of the new series of the KERB podcast. We'll be talking with her tomorrow.
Awesome.
Look forward to it.
Okay, thank you very much. And as always, if you want to support any of our traders, you can do so as part of our Keep the Wheels Turning campaign here at kerbfood.store, where you can buy tickets for when our lunch markets come back to normal and loads of other great stuff. If you want to access our street food starter pack, we'll add some links to the comment section and check out all the other videos from our KERB Bootcamp week and how to run a street food business workshop. So I'll see you tomorrow. Well, I won't see you tomorrow. Ollie will see you tomorrow with Petra and the new series of the KERB podcast, and have a great day. Bye.